What's going on, everyone? Grant Cohn, all 49ers, Sports Illustrated. I'm waiting on my guests, Leo Luna, Jason Aponte, Jordan Elliott. They were all in the stands today. They probably had a better view than me. They'll be here in a second. Jason just popped up. He's parking over at LAX. Yo, what's up? How you doing,
I'm
man?
here. I'm here. You guys hear me?
Yeah, we live. Jordan Elliott's gonna pop in at some point, and Leo
Yeah,
is too. He was in traffic. I told him to pull over. It's just the policy of the show. But anyway, I came on yesterday and gave my impression. You've been at both practices. Here's Leo. What's up? What's up? What's up? Oh, here's Splash Cousin.
Here we
What's
go.
up, man? Here we go. Okay, cool. What's up? What's up, everyone?
What's up?
So everyone was at practice the last 2 days. I gave my spiel yesterday. I would love to hear your take from seeing the last 2 days. You guys have, Jason and Splash Cousin have seen most of camp. So they have the same background and context that I do. Let's talk about what you saw from Lance the last 2 days, in particular today, him running with the starters. Jason, would you start us off?
Hey, it's funny because him running with the ones is everything that everybody's going to be talking about. But in the beginning, both guys kind of came out a little bit sluggish. Trey Lance had those high throws again that were popping up. But him getting those reps with the ones was really valuable. But in terms of what we saw, I don't really think that we've seen too much. And it feels like Jimmy Garoppolo's had almost every opportunity to kind of run away with this thing. If there is no competition, or if there is, whoever, depends on who you want to listen to. But today, he started out a little rough. But I mean, honestly, it wasn't really too far off from where he is, and he didn't make any, no mistakes with the ball, anything like that. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo can't say the same because, that interception is all over the internet right now. But I don't really think too much changed in terms of what I saw. I mean, in terms of what I saw from Jimmy Garoppolo, it was the same old kind of stuff. At least day one, he was like pushing the ball downfield. Today, he was just being indecisive even in 7-on-7. So, I mean, that's the best way that I could put it. Like, there's no pressure on 7-on-7s, and he still couldn't figure out where to go with the ball.
Yeah, he had a rep in 7-on-7. Sorry, Leo, where he almost threw a pick. I put it out on Twitter. Leo, what'd you see?
So the biggest thing for Trey Lance, I think he works better with the first-team offensive line, even though he's facing a first-team defense. Because you can contest to this. The second-string offensive line is terrible. Literally every play he'll get sacked on, and that you don't want that for your rookie to have that progression.
Yeah, it's almost like a fourth-string offensive line, given all the injuries. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's like that fourth-string offensive line there. And with Trey Lance, like the only critique I could really give Trey Lance is that he does miss with the ball high. On passes that should be in the receiver's numbers, not high, not low, literally right there. That's the really only critique I could give with Trey Lance. But he looks poised despite even when he is out there with the twos and that offensive line is just atrocious. He does look poised. He does look comfortable. It doesn't look like the game is too fast for him. What I relate it to is baseball. If a guy can't hit a breaking ball, are you going to have the guy try to learn how to hit a breaking ball from the dugout or in the batter's box? So with Trey Lance, I think you need to put him in the batter's box, need him to grow and become more of a efficient passer with his accuracy on completable passes. And learn from that rather than just having him hold the clipboard on the sideline. To me, the kid is ready, and that's what I see from Trey Lance. There's no big separation from the inside the pocket play from the two players, Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance.
Jordan.
Okay, so the biggest thing for me is that ultimately it's like a mental thing at this point, because everybody knows that Jimmy Garoppolo is nowhere near as physically talented as Trey Lance. And the argument is always, mentally, he's an 8-year veteran, or 7 years, he's 8th year in the league. Trey Lance is the rookie. I don't understand where this narrative is coming from, that there's this huge gap mentally, because what I saw today was Garoppolo being hesitant, double clutching the ball a lot, overthinking things, clearly not being confident, pushing the ball beyond 5-10 yards downfield. And Lance, while he did struggle a little bit, I thought at the beginning when he was getting the reps with the first team, he looked confident working through his progressions. He was constant. If there wasn't a guy open, he was quickly moving through his progressions. And that's something that has been an issue, not only just in camp for Jimmy, but for ever since he's been a 49er. And the biggest thing,
he lingers on that first read too long, right?
Exactly. And the biggest thing for me is that ends up costing you. That, to me, was what cost them on that goal line interception that he threw to Derwin James. Because when I saw James lined up over Kittle pre-snap, I focused on them because, that those are two of the best players on the field going at it. And Jimmy locked onto Kittle from the moment he had the ball in his hands. And as great of a player as Derwin James is, 90% of the safeties in the NFL are picking that ball. He threw it behind Kittle, and he locked onto him the entire way. And it comes down to, I understand that there's, a trust factor to having a target like George Kittle, but you also have to have the mental capacity, I feel like, as a quarterback to understand one of the best defensive backs in the entire league is on this guy. Throw the ball literally anywhere else. If he took a chance somewhere else and he threw a pick, I'd understand. But the fact that he locked onto that primary read, threw the ball behind Kittle, didn't even give him a chance to make a play on it, knowing that Derwin James is on him, I think speaks to a larger issue that he has, where he really just gets tunnel vision for whatever his primary read is and struggles to find anything beyond that. I think that was a huge issue today.
Okay, I'm with you on that. We're going to talk about Jimmy again in a minute. I want to stick with Lance for a second. To me, he's winning this job by default. Like, Jimmy's just giving it away. These interceptions are ridiculous, and it's every day. But we're going to talk about Jimmy. With Lance, I'm not sure if he's what you would say, quote unquote, ready, because he does have mechanical issues, but he is the best quarterback on this team. The thing I noticed, the reason that he misses high is I think he does throw too hard. I think he's so physically gifted that he could learn to take a little off. I think of him as like a pitcher. You don't have to throw 100. You could throw 94 easily, so easily, and place your ball, as opposed to now. And I think there's an interesting video on YouTube. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's called Bill Walsh Be a Teacher. And it's I don't know who put it together, but it's been on YouTube for 11 years. And it's 6 minutes long. And there's a little clip in the middle where Phil Simms tells the story of when Bill Walsh worked him out back in 1979. And he was trying to impress Bill Walsh with his velocity and throwing as hard as he could. And Bill was like, oh no, that's way too hard. I want it softer. It was kind of interesting. I think it'd be the same thing that Bill would say right now if he were alive. You're so physically strong. You don't need to, you can almost hear him grunt when he throws. And it's impressive, but I feel like he could take a little bit off and be more consistent. That's the only thing I would say with Lance right now. Anyway. Let's talk about Jimmy, because that's a lot more fun. What'd you guys see from Jimmy these last 2 days?
Same with Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, like I said, the first day he threw the ball downfield a little bit. He had a nice touchdown to Travis Benjamin. He also threw another one up that in double coverage. You could see him taking chances, but yesterday he faded at the end of practice, and it again had so many chances to throw interceptions. I think it was Asante Samuel picked him off yesterday. Today, even in 7-on-7s, it was classic Jimmy Garoppolo. He literally rolls out of the pocket. It was coverage. There's no pressure. Tried to force a pass that was almost an interception. Then the next play, boom, he throws a touchdown to Kittle over the middle. And it's this is such a up and down thing. It's a consistency thing. That was the epitome of good Jimmy, bad Jimmy right there in that spot. And that's literally something that 49er fans have been very accustomed to with his entire time as the quarterback.
Watching Jimmy Garoppolo so frustrating. Because like Jason said, you'll see a pass that gets nearly intercepted by the middle linebacker. And then next, he'll throw a perfect pass to George Kittle in the back of the end zone. And I think, Grant, you're the one who started the good Jimmy, bad Jimmy. And that's really who he is as a player. I don't know where the Deebo Samuel injury happened with the soft tissue. I believe it's a hamstring that they're calling it. But the play that sparks my attention is when he tried to air it out to Deebo Samuel down the sideline, but it was criminally underthrown, and Deebo Samuel had to stop his fade route to try and come back to the ball, which was ultimately incomplete. And with Jimmy Garoppolo, they say, oh, there's a mean Jimmy or mad Jimmy out there. There's a new different Jimmy here at camp. No, it's the same Jimmy. It's the same guy we saw in 2017, 18, 19, and 20. There's no difference. I think Trey Lance isn't magically going to get this guy into a Pro Bowl. He is who he is. And eventually, I think Trey Lance will starting role if not week 1.
Dang, Leo went to 8 different frequencies at the end there. You sounded like an AM call. Anyway, but you made some really good points. I don't know what happened to audio at the end, but you sounded good. I was like, hey, he's calling from prison all of a sudden. Oh, wait, hold on. You just went into analog mode. Anyway, Splash Cousin, you're up.
So I think the biggest thing with Jimmy is just consistency, because I think you've been there for all the camp. You've seen it, Grant. He actually has had a few, especially situational drills. He's had some impressive throws that have taken me by surprise. We're 3rd and 8, 3rd and 13, and he finds a guy downfield. He's able to throw it over the middle. The problem is he immediately follows that up with a throw that just probably makes Kyle Shanahan want to throw his clipboard 30 yards down Like,
In that sense, he has been
a,
consistent, man.
And that's what gets me is that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
So when I'm evaluating Jimmy, I think, to be fair, he put out some throws the past couple of days that looked great, where he was hitting guys down the field. He was airing it out a little bit. He was taking chances. He just can't consistently do it. And I think what happens is, there's this weird narrative that he throws a pick and gets better all of a sudden after. I haven't seen that at all in camp. He throws a ball that nearly gets picked, and it looks like he loses all confidence. And I think with his own teammates, it wasn't as bad. But what I saw the last couple of days was when he had that bad throw that almost got picked that was lower behind, the Chargers players were clearly, it was like the blood in the water type deal, where they could kind of sense that he wasn't feeling the most confident he could be. And the biggest problem to me is that happens in game situations all the time. So people write it off as, this is just practice, who cares? But that carries over into games. Yeah. And then when you're comparing him with Trey Lance, yes, Trey Lance isn't perfect. He threw a ball high that should have been picked, in my opinion, today, that one that short hopped the defender. But you're also getting so much big play ability with it as well. And that's the biggest thing to me that I think Kyle needs to look at, is both of these guys are going to be prone to making mistakes. They've both shown that they will occasionally throw a ball that a defender has a chance to pick off. But the difference is Trey Lance adds rushing ability. He adds the ability to throw downfield. He's willing to take chances downfield. And he just looks so much more confident throwing the ball. And I just don't think that it's a great sign when the rookie who's 21 years old, who has been in an NFL setting for, outside of OTAs, it's been 3 weeks really, and he looks more confident than the guy who's been in the league for almost a decade. The confidence and the consistency are the biggest issues to me with Jimmy Garoppolo. He just can't seem to string a consistent amount of confident reps together where he looks strong throwing the ball and he looks decisive in the pocket making decisions.
Yeah, the other thing, I was talking to Kyle Posey today about this on the sideline. He writes for Niners Nation along with Splash Cousin. He said, you know what? Something would be fun to chart how many of Jimmy Garoppolo's incomplete passes in camp were knocked down. And that's like, when he misses, it's usually a pass breakup or an interception. I don't know how he does it, but defensive backs get their hands on his passes a lot. I think part of it is that they know he's not going to go downfield, so they're squatting on some of his preferred routes. And two, he's really throwing a very off ball. Like, if it's his first read, he can get some zip on it. But a lot of times if he goes to his second read, he's throwing off his back foot. So that's the thing I'm seeing from Jimmy. Like, he's getting a lot of his passes knocked down. And like Leo pointed out, like, this was supposed to bring out the best in Jimmy, this competition. I think it's brought out the worst in him. He makes the same mistakes every day. He hasn't improved. I think he's getting worse. And I think what we're seeing is when he plays poorly in front of just the Niners, like, it's not that blood in the water type thing where the defense is like frothing at the mouth. But when it's the Chargers, I mean, it is. And when it's another team, that's what it's going to be. And if he's going to be throwing interceptions this much, I don't think it's really even a decision for the 49ers. I think he's making the decision for everyone with his consistency. I mean, you say he's inconsistent. He's freaking consistent with the picks every day. Every day. It's been 4 days in a row. What the hell is this, man? He's getting worse as camp goes along. It's fascinating. I feel like, like, it's kind of amazing to think about 2 weeks ago after like 3 practices, all those national media members saying that Jimmy Garoppolo was playing lights out. Like, hey, can we let this play out real quick? This is not even anywhere near over. And, next week's open to the press too. Keneal says no more practices in front of the media, right? Wrong. NFL changed their policy this year. It's through the 26th. So this quarterback competition plays out next week too. Just want you to know. And it's ramping up to the point where, do you expect Lance? Real quick, do you guys expect Lance to play with the starters in this game on Sunday? And if so, how much?
I do. For a little bit. I think that's a lot of what we saw today with the ones, because it's one thing for Trey Lance to take with the offensive line and run a bunch of, run plays, zone reads, things like that. He actually was throwing the ball today, and they were trying to show that. So, I definitely would expect that, especially if, Jimmy comes out and does what he did in the first drive of the preseason game with, 3-yard pass, okay, call it back, and then check down, out of the game. It's kind of, okay, we know exactly what we're getting here. Why wouldn't we give the kid the unknown, and give him a shot? Especially against the defense that he's faced these last 2 practices.
Plus, the longer you keep Jimmy in there, the more likely it is he throws a pick. Splash Cousin, what do you think?
I think that ultimately you're going to see more Trey Lance because the key absence to me is Trent Williams won't be out there with the ones. And while I think Jalen Moore has done admirable for where he was picked and the fact he's a rookie, Trey Lance is much more likely to evade any kind of pressure. I don't think that they're willing to risk Jimmy going out there and getting hurt for multiple reasons. I think that they do want him on the roster. There is a chance he starts. But also, if he gets hurt, especially if he gets hurt in a bad way, they lose any kind of flexibility to move on from him should they decide in the coming weeks that, hey, you know what, we're just going to go with Lance. Maybe they find a trade partner or something. So I think Jimmy will get kind of a similar load. He'll get that first drive And regardless of what happens, unless they go 3 and out right off the bat, he might get 2. But I think the rest of the first team offense will be out there for the majority of the first quarter. So I don't think that there was any coincidence that today Lance got an extended look with the ones. And I think that it ultimately is something that, while, Kyle is going to understand the strength of each of these guys, there's never going to be a fair evaluation while Lance is running for his life behind that second team O-line. And while the first team O-line does have its issues too, the difference is incredible. Like, you cannot fairly evaluate the way Trey Lance has played. And the fact he's looked as good as he has looked behind such a shoddy line that's been just being abused all camp by 49ers D-line. And then the last 2 days, like the last couple of days, the Chargers defensive line was giving him work too. Those guys were not holding up well for the most part. So I think ultimately he'll get probably the most of the first quarter, and then they'll bring in a second team and he'll play through about halfway through the third quarter. I think he's going to play the majority of this game.
Good. I like that. Timothy says, do the Niners have a dedicated quarterbacks coach? If not, they should. Wise investment, I think. Yeah, Rich Gangarella, they just brought him back. I don't know if he ever played quarterback, but he coaches him. I don't know if he's good at it, but he's employed. But yeah, it's his name. 2 for the Money says, will Kyle trade Jimmy this year, or will he eat the $27 million to keep him on the team? That's interesting. I mean, if they can bench him before week 1 and keep him as a backup, I would think they could get him to like take a pay cut. So I wonder if it's trending that direction. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Could be, but I mean, at the same time, like, Trey Lance would have to be playing like beyond, anybody's expectations for them to get rid of him, because no matter what you think about Jimmy Garoppolo, he can still operate this offense with some level of competency. That's something that wasn't seen when he went down, like with Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. So, I mean, the money thing I understand, but the idea that your season won't go to hell if something, God forbid, happens to Trey Lance or something like that is something that Kyle and those guys are ready to keep around. But, anything could change, especially if a team comes and blows you away during the year. And wants to overpay, then yeah, how could you say no to something like that?
Yep. Hold on. We can't hear you. Oh, we lost Splash Cousin. If you want to come back, leave and come back in, that might fix it. I'm just saying. The Jedi says, I think Niners need to start Trey and clean up his mechanics. My question is, do you take any trade value now and just make the trade for locker room's sake? No, I think they need the backup, don't they? They need. I mean,
yeah, I would think they would. Yeah, I would think they would, at least right now, just to see. Again, like you said, this is far from over. There's still going to be many practices. There's still 2 more preseason games, including the dress rehearsal. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out right now.
We got you. You there? I think we can hear you. Well,
I don't know what happened. It cut out a little bit. My apologies. What was the question, Grant? I'm so sorry about that.
Someone says, oh, the previous one. Hold on. The one that I think you said you had something you want to say to that one. Hold on. Just a sec. Oh, it was, will Kyle trade Jimmy this year, or will he eat the $27 million to keep him on the team?
I think ultimately they will keep him on the team simply because I don't think it prevented them from getting the Warner deal done, re-signing Williams, bringing back the, Kyle Juszczyk and Jaquaski Tarts and K1 Williams. Like, they brought back their core players. If it prevented them from getting any of those guys, I think he would have been cut a long time ago. But I think the way Kyle is looking at it is he doesn't want to get into a situation again where he has a team that's capable of winning games and you're basically having Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard level quarterback play that's ultimately costing you. And while I think Nick Sudfeld has done a really good job in camp, I could definitely see a scenario where they would eat the $27 million just knowing, even if Trey Lance starts, if he gets hurt, especially when you factor in the fact that he's probably going to be running the ball a lot and being utilized as a rushing weapon, I think the insurance is there. But if somebody comes to them, if a desperate team comes to them and is willing to give them a first-round pick or even a second-round pick at this point, I think that they would be foolish not to listen, and I think they would have to seriously consider it. But I think the situation where they're just hanging on to him this year, and then at the first chance they get, he's probably gone next year. There's no way I could see any path to him staying on the roster next season. Beyond something, like a long-term injury happening to Lance or something like that, should he get in and play. There's just no reason to keep him. So I think they ultimately will, simply because the past couple seasons have gone so wrong when the quarterback play hasn't been at least average. And while Jimmy does have his faults, I think he does supply some level of baseline competence that most NFL backups wouldn't. So again, he's not going to go out there and win you games, but he can at least be a guy that can play like a 20 to 30th ranked quarterback in the league, and the rest of the roster is so good they might be able to rattle off 8 or 9 wins should he have to play a large number of games.
Achilles Westbrook says, I saw the pump thing Grant was talking about with Trey. It looks off, but it seems to freeze the defense while he goes through his progression. Yeah. You notice that thing? Like I said, he often does like a little pump fake check swing kind of thing. I feel like that's one thing that kind of contributes to him getting sacked or holding the ball a little bit longer. But today he got sacked once. He got through his progressions quite efficiently, I thought. I don't know if you guys saw the same thing.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? Even if you go ahead, you get it.
No, I was going to say, well, he worked with the first team offensive line, and I think that helped him tremendously to not see as many sacks because, but you said, Grant, the second team online is four stringers. Like Tom freaking Compton's out there, and you know how I feel about him.
Tom freaking Compton.
Well, the thing is, that's what we were saying. Indecisiveness on 7-on-7s and a kid who seems to go through his regressions, even if, maybe he, should do it a little bit better, maybe, I guess, a little bit faster, I guess. It's still happening. It's not happening the other way. And who's the rookie and who isn't at this point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like everyone's saying, I feel like the before we move on, I feel like the standard right now is from some people is that to show that he's ready, Trey Lance has to be essentially perfect. And meanwhile, nothing Jimmy Garoppolo does bad in practice counts because it's only practice. It's like that's not fair. Anyway, moving on. Right guard. I like Daniel Brunskill. He's had good moments in games at a lot of positions, but in this camp, this year, in one-on-ones, he loses like every time. Are you guys concerned about this position? It seems like the Niners were concerned. That's why they spent a second-round pick on it. But that guy's not coming through anytime soon. So what do you think about this spot?
Yes, it's a big concern.
Or Jason, go.
Yeah,
go ahead,
it's a big concern, and obviously they're concerned because they keep moving Brunskill out. Colton McKivitz was taking right guard snaps. Unfortunately, Banks is going to be injured, so we won't even see him step up. That was a second-round pick. It was kind of assumed that he was going to be the starter. But, yeah, it's an obvious concern. Jordan could talk a little bit more about it because he was definitely watching offensive line, so he can tell you, certain reps. But, yeah, right guard has been an issue the entire time, all through camp. So, I tried to make the point that, in the games, with Alex Mack and I got out there, that has, a little bit to do with everything because it was funny. That, like his first rep, he's calling out the protections and everything, and you can hear it. The only thing that's louder than Alex Mack yelling is Chris Kosurik yelling, who, by the way, that guy's throat must be like gone, like right now at this point, because he just he's yelling on every single play. He gets everybody hyped, man. I could hear him.
Real quick, don't you guys wish that you had someone in your life who screamed praise in your face while you did nothing? Like Chris Kosurik was like, yeah, tweet that, yeah, tweet that. That's
like if I'm writing an article and the article's done, and he's like, that's the article, man. Like, yeah, everybody needs somebody like Chris Kosurik in their life, but
probably shouldn't be screaming in the West End. I'm probably gonna get kicked out now.
He has a bunch of energy, so I'll give him that. And then, but yeah, with right guard, obviously it's a concern because, like I said, they're rotating people in and out all camp, trying to figure out the right combination. And the fact that Banks was kind of assumed when you talk about draft capital to be the starter, and Daniel Brunskill seemed to be like the fallback issue, like, hey, we still have Brunskill, we should be fine. Now that that's taken away, now right guard becomes a bit more of an issue. And I'd be lying if I was saying that I'm not concerned.
Yeah, so the biggest thing to me with Brunskill was that watching the one-on-one reps while the Detroit defensive line was taking reps one-on-one 49ers offensive line. And the biggest problem that I had was that Brunskill got beat 3 reps in a row with literally the same exact move. He got beat with a swim move over the top. The only difference was the one in between, the one in the middle, the second one was with the left arm rather than the right arm. But he got literally beat with the same thing. And it's something that, at a certain point, hey, every offensive lineman is going to get beat. When defensive lines are repeatedly showing you the same thing and you can adjust, to me that screams a much bigger, issue is at hand. And he had, I believe, I counted 4 for sure. It might have been 5, but reps in these one-on-ones. And he not only didn't win a single one, he got absolutely destroyed on all of them. And the Chargers defensive line is good, but the interior isn't. And it's not like this guy was going one-on-one with Aaron Donald or Chris Jones and was getting work. Like, these aren't household names that are doing this. And I think there's a really tough balance that ends up in this equation when Kyle's deciding this offensive line and who's going to be starting, because Brunskill is phenomenal in that zone blocking scheme. He really is good at getting to the second level. He's good at understanding his assignments and being where he needs to be. But going back all the way to that 2019 season, on critical passing downs, when other teams know they can tee off and you're going to be throwing the ball, that interior has been extremely suspect. And Alex Mack has been huge. He's made Lake and Tomlinson and whoever's been at right guard look a lot better. But ultimately, if other teams are able to isolate on that right guard spot, it's going to cause so many problems, especially if Garoppolo is the one starting, because we've seen how hesitant he can be in that pocket. And if he starts to feel that pressure and the pocket collapsing, drinking a little bit, he's way more prone to make that bad decision, put a ball where he shouldn't, or not step into a throw and end up, he throws so many balls behind as is. If he has his right guard getting pushed into his lap too, it's only going to get worse. So I just think that they're at a point now, like especially with Banks hurt, what are their options really? I don't know that there's anybody else that would come in and be better. I thought McKivitz has looked good. That might be their only real option if they were to move on from Brunskill. But again, Brunskill is so good with the running game. We know how much that means to Kyle Shanahan that might outweigh it. But he has to be sitting there concerned with, like, not just that he's getting beat, but the way he's getting beat. It was not close, and that is not encouraging at all.
Yeah, I still think he's the best right guard in the team, but he's probably the worst starter on the offense. Really having a terrible camp. I guess it's what you can expect from him one-on-one, but not playing well. Don't seem like I don't think Colton McKivitz is any better though. So that's a tough one. I mean, I guess the Niners have been kind of weak at right guard every single year that Kyle Shanahan has been here, and it hasn't been I don't think he's out concerned about the position. I think he thinks it's the least important position on the field, but as you guys said, it's all the more reason basically for them to run the ball as much as possible, because they're just not a drop back passing team in any way, from the quarterback to the offensive line. All right, last topic, and then we'll take a couple of questions. What have you guys seen from the defense? I know they were in front of you guys yesterday. You got a better look. I haven't really seen them at all. What have you guys seen from the defense? Any observations?
My goodness, D Ford looks amazing, and this defensive line was just mauling guys. The backup center, I forget his name, but God help him, he was tossed to the ground by nearly anyone.
Brendel.
Right. No, not for the Niners, for the San Diego Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers. Their backup. So this defensive line was just mauling them, like just killing them. And the other thing that I noticed with the defense is that the secondary is a little bit more of an issue, especially with Emmanuel Mosley not there. Jason Barrett had some good battles with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen kind of got the best of him, but that's Keenan Allen, right? But aside from that, it's kind of what we were talking about with depth. Who can you trust at this point? BW Webb is not trustworthy at this point. I mean, I saw him lose a bunch of reps time, and yesterday they were just going to Dante Johnson, every single time that they could, because he was the one who started opposite of Jason Barrett. But D Ford looks amazing, and the defensive line is super deep. So yeah, I mean, this D Ford thing is such a breath of fresh air, and something that is so good for this defense, and basically nobody could have seen this coming.
For me, it all starts with that defensive line. Yesterday, that defensive line in 11-on-11 was as dominant as I've ever seen a defensive line during that portion of drills. Definitely, at least for this training camp. I had them down for double-digit sacks, and I had 4 different edge players who logged multiple sacks as well. And I think that edge depth is really key for them. Arden Key was fantastic. I think, honestly, I would be interested to hear your thoughts on this as well, Grant. I thought that Jordan Willis has been one of the best players on the field all throughout camp, which is incredible considering, he's kind of just a rotational situational pass rusher, but he's consistently winning his reps. He was winning against Trent Williams more than any other player when the Niners were practicing amongst themselves. So the amount of depth that they have on edge, to me, is really because we talked a lot about the interior and how deep, Maurice Hurst, Zach Kerr, Givens has looked really good. But then just the strength they have on that D-line has been phenomenal. The concern lies more with that depth on the secondary. The starters there isn't really a weak spot amongst the starters, but whoever's been there in place of Emmanuel Mosley, who's played very sparingly during camp, has just been getting torched over and over and over again. Yesterday and the day before, it was yesterday and today it was Dante Johnson. For a while, it was Tim Harris to start camp.
Ken Webster.
Again, it's a situation. Yeah, it's a situation where when you're going up in a division that has so many good, every team in that division has multiple good receivers. So even if you have a red shadow of the other team's number one, they're going to be able to exploit that weakness. And we saw last year, Mosley was kind of the guy getting picked on when Arizona was going at him 15, 16 targets a game. And my biggest concern would be is if he can't play, it's only going to be worse than what we saw last season in that regard. But other than that, the defense does look really strong. And again, the biggest thing that I would be worried about is that they're going to end up having to cut at least one, I think 2 players who are immediately going to get scooped up and be not only picked up by another NFL team, but have prominent roles on another team from their defensive line because it's so deep. And I think they seriously need to evaluate eliminating that third quarterback on the roster that Kyle said he wants to keep. And because I think the value of having an extra pass rusher, whether it's somebody on the interior or another edge player, is far more valuable than keeping Nate Sudfeld on the roster. And again, I think Nate Sudfeld has had a great camp. I thought that, He's played about as well as you could expect a player of his caliber who's in a depth role to play. But they're going to end up losing somebody who could be a significant contributor on that defensive line simply because they have so many players who are good and deserve an NFL roster spot, and you can only keep so many of them.
Okay, I didn't see much of the defense, but today I was peeking across like when the Niners weren't doing stuff on offense, and every time I did, Talanoa Hufanga gave up a touchdown pass in the red zone. It was like at least two or three times, and so he may not be ready to start right away. He may not be a starting caliber safety. I don't know. If he's a good backup who's good on special teams, he's a good draft pick. I'm just interested in that strong safety spot because Tavon Wilson's had a good camp, but he's also kind of a known commodity. He's never been a high-level starter. I'm curious to see if he gets isolated during the season, and if he does, I don't necessarily think that Talanoa will be the one to replace him. It might be Clinton Dix, although I didn't see anything from him in these 2 days. I wasn't watching. All I know is Hufanga got worked a little bit today. So maybe recalibrate your expectations at strong safety. But if Jaquiski Tartt could ever come back, that would be so clutch. I don't know if we should expect it. Thoughts real quick? It sounds so serious, and the team just doesn't talk about it.
I mean, I think that they kind of came into camp with a plan with him, and I don't think that the plan at all was for him to play at all. And I think that if it was much worse, I think that if it was much worse, that he'd probably be on IR. I understand he's on PUP, but they put Tony Jefferson on IR with the groin right away. That seems to be a lot more strong. So I think that there is a plan while they aren't saying anything, and I agree with that. I think that they have a plan that they're trying to just get him ready, get him up for week 1 the best way that they can. So let's see. I mean, the guy knows the defense. I wouldn't really worry about like being acclimated and getting reps or anything like that. But I think that I think that they're just taking it slow with him as they are with like Bosa.
I think he's important to this team in this season. I think he is. Nothing against Tavon Wilson. I just think Tartt's important. I think he's better.
Yeah, and I think the biggest issue with Tartt is that he has turf toe, and turf toe is such a hard injury to gauge like a timetable for return. And he can feel great. Like we saw him running sprints at camp. I'm sure you saw him working out off that far field. And he looked great running north to south and running that, straight line speed where he's just getting into a full sprint. But the second he has to make a football move and he has to move laterally or plant and cut really quick, he could end up tweaking it and be out for the entire season. So I think at this point, I wouldn't expect him to come back and play. I won't say for the entire season, but you almost have to plan for that. And I agree with you. I think Wilson has had a really good camp because I didn't expect Tartt to be out this long. I thought Wilson would just be like a depth guy, but I thought that he's looked pretty strong. But just as you said, for the majority of his career, he was a special teams guy, depth player. He wasn't really, starting caliber player. I do think having Jimmy Ward does hide a lot of that stuff. You can kind of put Wilson in the box. And a great
pass rush.
Ward
I mean, Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're okay. So I think that I think he deserves that spot. I definitely think he's getting it over Hufanga. I think Hufanga's had, great stretches during camp, but I definitely think Wilson's played better overall. And just trusting the veteran presence there, I think would be the wise move. The other thing I would add is that D'Amico Ryans is far more willing to run man coverage than Robert Saleh was when he was here. He's running it at an increasingly higher clip than Robert Saleh did. So I do think that does eliminate the ability for defenses to pick on Wilson as much, because I think a lot of what you'll see is Ward will be matched up a bit more in man-to-man should they deploy the safeties in that coverage. And then Wilson will be end up, eating up the zone or playing, that single high center field.
Good point.
So, but you're right. Tartt means so much. I think Tartt's the most underrated starter on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
And he's kind of been an unsung hero the last couple of years, but you see how big the drop-off is when he's off the field, compared to when he's on it.
Yep. All right, we got a few questions and we're going to wrap this up. Daniel says, thoughts on kicking the tires on Quentin Dunbar? Could be a good depth move at a low price. What do you guys think?
I don't think it's going to happen because of character issues. I understand that he didn't get charged with anything like that, but they're not going to disrupt, with bringing him in, right? He was involved with that thing with, what's his name?
That one thing
Deontay
with, Baker.
Deontay Baker. Yeah. I mean, I know that there weren't any charges or anything like that, but like, it just, this organization prioritizes high quality character guys. And not saying that he isn't, it's just that's a little bit of a cloud that's around him right now.
Yeah, you're going to bet against that one happening. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I just don't think it's a scheme fit, honestly. I think that Dunbar looked a lot better in that, cover 3 deep third when he was playing zone. I wouldn't really trust him to run man-to-man. And the amount that they've been running it in practice leads me to believe they're probably going to be running a lot of man during games as well. So I just think from a scheme fit standpoint, it isn't worth it. And as Jason added, there's so much extra baggage that, a lot of times, as you know, in the NFL, if you can play, teams will deal with the baggage. I just think that there's not enough talent or scheme fit there to justify it at this point.
Jody says, love what you're doing. Question, scale of 1 to 10 being the highest. How much do you think he is ready to make a tangible impact on the team now? Who?
Lance?
Let's just say it's Lance. I think he can make a huge freaking impact on this team, like a 10. I mean, gonna make a big deal. It's
Yeah,
gonna be a big deal.
I mean, even when the offense is operating at its highest, I guess efficient, state, with Jimmy Garoppolo, that's still not even close to the ceiling that Trey Lance would offer in terms of how they would use him with the zone read and how much that impacts the run game for other guys. You saw most to break off a touchdown on the first rep of the game, first rep of the 11-on-11s because he's just that fast, and that's still what he has. So I think it would be a huge impact. Just again, the ceiling is just much higher when Lance is under center.
I would say at least a 7. I think ultimately with Lance, the biggest thing is that even if he struggles, if he's throwing balls high or he's, adjusting to windows closing quicker in the NFL, some of the things we have seen him struggle with in camp, his big playability and the fact that he threatens defenses with his legs and he's forcing defenses to play 11-on-11 just opens up so many of the things that Kyle Shanahan can do. And I think when you have a quarterback who can run, the floor of your offense is immediately elevated due to so many of the creative things and the ways you can deploy that quarterback using their legs, that I just think that he immediately is going to make the offense more explosive, that on those weeks where the defense isn't going to be out there holding teams, 10, 17 points, or whatever, there's going to be weeks where they're going to need to get into shootouts. I think that Lance is going to give them a much better chance to do that than Jimmy would.
Don says, why don't they trade some of that D-line depth for O-line depth? They are going to cut these guys and get nothing. They could use – they go like 11 deep on the D-line. They go 4 deep on the offensive line.
Who's available, I guess, for what price and what are you getting? If you send one of these lower end D line guys, who are you getting? I mean, you would be basically trading depth for depth. That doesn't necessarily make an impact or is an impact player. So that's a little bit harder. It's not. I don't think it's as simple as that.
Well, Area Niner says, should we be concerned about CB depth and O-line depth? I mean, yeah. And I think this is a creative way to handle it. What do you think, Splash Cousin?
Yeah, I think they definitely should be concerned about both. I think the issue is with on the O-line. They were so dependent on the rookies in Jalen Moore and Aaron Banks. Obviously, Banks is hurt, and Moore, I think Kyle said that he's been playing him at tackle because they have so many bodies already on the interior. That I think they're not doing him any justice playing him out of position. I think he'd be much better as a guard. And then at corner, it's the same thing. They're relying so much on Ambry Thomas and Commodore Lenore that it might help to bring in some veteran presence. Just a quick example, when they traded for Laken Tomlinson, I believe it was a it was a day 3 pick in 2017. And Tomlinson, while he's not, a star player by any means, he's been a consistent starter that's contributed to the offense for a few years. So if they can get that kind of deal somewhere where they can give up a 7th-round pick or 6th-round pick or maybe one of their depth players that they might end up cutting anyway, I don't think it would hurt to start asking around the league and see if they can maybe find a team that has a surplus of offensive line and get a guy that's maybe a veteran who's been around, that has a skill set to operate in that zone blocking scheme, that can come in, not be expected to take on a huge role, but also can provide that they're going to feel comfortable should Brunskill get hurt or should, if anything happens to Alex Mack, the line is toast. So they need to find someone that can come in and play a versatile role at either guard position or center, in my opinion.
Okay, last question. If you had to make a prediction on how the Niners season is going to end right now, what do you say? I would say I think Lance is going to be starting pretty soon. I think they're going to go to the playoffs. I think they'll win in the wild card round, and I think they'll lose in the divisional round because ultimately they have too much dead money. And I'm going to count Jimmy Garoppolo as the backup as dead money. And I think next year they're going to go all in and win this. They could win the Super Bowl next year. I'm thinking like a 2012 Seattle Seahawks vibe where they're very good and Lance wins a playoff game but loses a second. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I don't understand why anybody wouldn't count that as a successful season.
It would be a successful season.
Winning a playoff game with a rookie quarterback, like who wouldn't want that? Yeah, I kind of got it the same way. I mean, this defense is going to be too good. Kyle Shanahan is going to draw up what he can, and if Lance plays, which that'll start to get louder if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't do something significant in these next 2 preseason games. And let's say he even starts week 1. Let's say the 49ers win and squeak one out against Detroit, and the offense isn't exactly lighting it up. And we all know, in Kyle Shanahan's time, the first game is usually slow. Almost every time, Tampa in 2019, 2020 last year against Arizona. So I think that just gets louder. But yeah, I mean, Lance eventually will probably take over the job unless something drastic happens. And you know what, they do make the playoffs, and I think they win a game or 2 as well. But yeah, that would be a successful season. It's obviously as a fan of the team, you want to win the Super Bowl, but I think that it's all in good time, especially when you deliver the context of the fact that Lance is. You just want to see improvement from Lance, and you want to show that he can run the show.
Yeah, I think they're going to finish around 11-6 would be my prediction right now. I think they'll host a playoff game, whether it's in the wild card or the divisional round, depending on how the rest of the NFC shakes out. But I do think that they will only get as far as that first playoff win. I just think that there are too many other good teams in the NFC. There's too many, when you're going up against the Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady's of the world, as good as I think Lance could be, that's a lot to ask of a rookie. And I think the roster around them is very good. I don't think that it's a reasonable expectation to believe that they will go into Lambeau or go into Tampa in January and win a playoff game on the road. So I think the ultimate thing they need to look at is getting Trey Lance in as soon as possible and then building into next season, just like you said. Quick example, the last time Kyle had a rookie quarterback that was taken in the top 5 that was this talented, it was Robert Griffin III. And Washington had the second most efficient offense in the league. They had top 5 in scoring, they're top 5 in yardage. If they have a season like that and they win a playoff game, that by all means is an extremely successful season, and they should feel very good about that. Because while they do want the immediate success, I understand people still have the taste of the Super Bowl appearance in their mouth, and they want that that immediate gratification. If they show some progress building forward with Lance as the guy, it's an extremely successful season in my book. What they can't have is this back and forth where they're going back and forth between Jimmy and Lance, like we saw Miami do with Fitzpatrick and Tua last year, which ultimately stunted Tua's development. And Fitzpatrick is gone on another team now, which Jimmy likely will be, almost assuredly will be next year. So just ultimately the main thing they need to focus on, while they're going to say it's winning games, that should be goal 1A. 1B right behind it should be whatever they can to develop Trey Lance and make him feel comfortable going into year 2, and then obviously all the years following that.
Real quick before we go, Mose Beach says, do you think if Trey dink and dunks more rather than forcing the ball down the field would help him in this competition? If he wants to have like a better stat line in a preseason game, then sure. But I think he's doing everything right now. I think the fact that he's throwing the ball down the field aggressively and not getting picked is good. But guys, that's the end of the show. I got to wrap this up. Jason, thank you very much for doing this. Have a great flight back. Splash Cousin, thank you very much for doing this.
Wait. We're not leaving. We're staying for the game and everything. We vibing in LA.
Oh, you guys are here? I'm leaving. I'm going home tomorrow. You guys are staying here?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not staying for the game, man. Screw that. No, but have fun, though. Definitely have fun. Thank you guys for joining me. Leo, wherever you are, thank you for joining me. This was cool. Learned a lot from you guys, so have fun at the game.
Yep.
I'll see you guys around. Peace.
Thanks, Trent.